a court of law.
Right.
So what are the facts? He may have confessed, but a confession by itself is not enough. There has to be other things that support that confession. In court of law, if we were to go to trial and he would have a good lawyer who could fight for him, a good lawyer would say, well, yeah, he confessed under all this pressure from the cops.
Right. Promises
and threats. Right? You do this and we'll get this, or you do this, we're going to get the death penalty. The cops do all kind of stuff like this. You know it. A good lawyer will say this confession was made involuntarily. It wasn't made willfully. It was made under some pressure, some duress, some coercion.
Right.
Which could have been the case. Again, I don't know. I wasn't there. I haven't seen the videos.
Okay.
But there has to be other evidence, too. Where was the gun? What was the motive?
Right.
What's all this other stuff? And none of that exists that we know of at this moment.
Yeah, absolutely right. Okay, so moving forward, I guess, from, tragedies in the past, how long have you been a public defender?
For about 8.5 years.
8.5 years. Is this like, do you have aspirations to move beyond this position, or is this something, are you going to, fight for the people, into forever, or do you have any type of political?
So I'll tell you, man, the most effective people are those who are doing what they love.
Okay.
Right?
Absolutely.
When I was a student and when I was an undergrad student at UNCC, I had a professor ask me, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I say, I want to be a lawyer, right? I want to be a lawyer. She asks me, well, what kind of lawyer? And I go, I didn't know there were different types.
Right, yeah.
So she encouraged me to get some internships, different places. So I interned here at the same office back in 99. Then I interned for federal prosecutors for a year. I got a chance to see Johnny Cochran come in and represent Riddick Bowe, the boxer, and it was amazing. He won, of course, right? It was amazing. It was fun. Then I had a chance to, intern with Senator John Edwards, U.S. Senator John Edwards, who ran for president. I had a chance to work for some firms, some judges. I've worked overseas at the European Court for Human Rights. I've done all these things. To answer your question, the only place where I've had the most impact and effectiveness has been here as a public defender. Because I get to meet and reach my clients, my people.
Right.
I get to do a lot of preventative defense, meaning I get to build programs and opportunities before my clients have to become my clients.
Okay.
So I've created programs and worked with others to collaborate and create things like Studio 345. Which is an after-school program where we take at-risk youth from CMS, give them free bus passes. They come downtown. There's a studio. There's equipment like this.
Nice.
They get Apple products and they get to go make movies, videos, make records, right? And we've been doing it for years. And this is a collaboration between private organizations and public. Right now, I'm working with a federal prosecutor, a black male, and a CMPD officer to create a leadership training program at Turning Point Academy. This is the alternative school. So when the kids get in trouble at their regular school, they're sent to this school.
Right.
If they make it from this school, then they go back to their school. If they don't make it, they end up in the system.
Right.
So we're creating a program to really, help strengthen that. For the past 2 years, I've been going down to a federal prison mentoring federal inmates. 15 of the worst acting people and 15 of those who are getting ready to get out. I mentor both groups. And I'm taking them through a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh, right.
So giving them these new habits and skills. Because if we can change the 15 worst people, that changes the entire culture of the prison. The 15 who are getting ready to get out, not going to come back. Collegiate 100. I can go on, man, down the list of the programs I've been able to create.
Nice.
I'm chair of this nonprofit, chair of that nonprofit board.
Right.
Work here, work there. I could go down the list. I'm making a difference. I don't need to be known about it. I don't need to be seen. I don't need you to know about it, right?
Right.
But the reason I share it, though, is because where else can I have this real impact, right?
Right.
Running for office, do I need to do that when I'm accomplishing everything I want to now? I'll tell you, in light of what we're dealing with in this current moment, I'm working with a few folks to get a restraining order against the police. So they can never use tear gas or riot gear officers against peaceful demonstrators. So that's in the works. Working with some local politicians, some organizations to create a new civilian review board which is basically our way of checking the police. So we're going to be revamping that and working on that. I've been working with the White House and some other Department of Justice, creating different initiatives that we can continue to build. Can keep going on down the list, right? Work has to be done. I just need to do my part. And right now, I'm doing my part.
You are. And it's funny you said that, you know, you're not in it for recognition or you don't need to be recognized. But the thing is that, you know, you are being recognized. When I said that I was doing this episode, you know, a lot of people very familiar for whatever reason. Like, yeah, I've seen him do this or I've seen him do that. Do you feel like you're in a position of leadership? Because to me, it just seems like, you know, their opinion, the public opinion, you're somewhat of a leader.
So, man, I hate to even answer this question because what you're asking me is really, again, an indictment against our current leadership in this way. I just got out, man, and stood in between cops and demonstrators.
Okay.
That's all I did that night. I've done other things. No one knew about me, really, until they saw it on CNN. My wife says to me, though, she says, honey, you've been doing that kind of work for the past 12 years since we've been married.
Right.
This is who you are. That night, cameras just happened to be on you. But here's the problem. Folks look at that and call that leadership, and they have saying there's a need and an absence of leadership. What they're really saying is the people that we've elected into positions of leadership are doing nothing.
Right.
What they're saying is we have no one taking us and showing us and guiding us and fulfilling the promises they all made to us about what they're going to do to help black and white. Our leadership is devoid of leaders. There are people in positions, but not people who are guiding their followers. And so when I hear people say to me, man, you're a leader, what they're saying is you stood up when people needed you, when people needed someone. You were there. But that sucks, man, because let me say it this way. There's a father who beats his son and his wife. Right?
Okay.
The neighbor has had enough of it. The neighbor finally goes over to the house one day and says to the father, stop. And to the son who's had enough, not right now. And to the mother, you know, hey, here's some tissue for your eyes and for your bloody nose. Is that neighbor really a hero? He's not.
No.
Is he a leader? Not really.
No.
There's so much dysfunction in this home that this one temporary moment that this neighbor had a chance to step in never changes this dysfunctionality, this dysfunction. It's the same thing. We have our community, the mothers and the sons, who are tired of being beaten on by the police. This abusive force. I happen to step in as the nosy neighbor and say, you know, community, you're ready to, you know, express your frustrations. Police, you're ready to exact more pain on these people. Not right now.
Right.
There's a dysfunction, my friend, that we have between those who are in our community and how they feel about the people who are meant to serve and protect them.
That's very true. And
so leadership then, me standing there saying there's dysfunction, we need you to stand up. I mean, I did it. Yeah, I did it. But we have so much more work to do, so much dysfunction. I need those people that we've called leaders and elected to be there and who assume the roles and want those roles to actually do the work
right.
of being a leader.
Exactly. It's very interesting that you would have that stance because, in my personal opinion, is that this is the only community that clamors, minorities and blacks especially, that clamors for leadership. I would be the same way. You know, if I'm witnessing these types of things, then I'm obligated. I may not want to. This man might be bigger and larger than me. I might not want to, but I'm obligated to say something. Because, you know, she obviously needs some assistance.
Right.
So if everybody were to just do what was morally right, or you know what we knew that we were called to do, we wouldn't. I don't feel like I need somebody to tell me, hey, you know, you should help that woman, or you know, you should be here. You know, now we all have our personal fights, so you know. You might feel comfortable, you know, protesting, you know, uptown, and I may feel comfortable soup kitchens or this or that and the third. So everybody doesn't have to, you know.
Do the same way.
Do the same thing. Same thing.
Absolutely.
But I don't necessarily feel like, you know, we need, you know, leaders if everybody would just behave. I'm just doing things that my mother would force me to do. If she was standing right here, she would say, "Hey, go over there and do something." And I'm doing something probably against my will, but I agree that this is the right decision to do. Also, great, man. I got a lot, and I really appreciate you meeting with me. Before I go, in your own words, define legendary courage.
Yeah, great. So, courage is a word that I have studied for quite some time. You don't have to have fear to decide to be courageous. You don't have to be bold and arrogant to have courage. Courage just means, in so many ways, in a practical way, using your power for good. That's what courage is. Everyone that you've ever looked at who was courageous used their power for good. Anyone who's the opposite did not use their power for good. So Hitler, who was evil, didn't use his power for good. He used his power, but not for good. A lot of the folks who are sitting around at home watching TV doing nothing, they're not evil, but they're not using their power for good.
Right.
They're just doing nothing. To your point, if we all got up and did what we could and did our part, we wouldn't really need leaders to rely on in that way, right?
Right.
Because we're all using our power for good. That's what courage means to me. Legendary means doing it in a way that I'm not going to be remembered as a legend, because I don't need to be a legend, but doing it in a way that will empower you to continue courage in this way. So I've had folks in my, I have to say it this way, does my Black Life matter? Yes.
Right.
Will it matter in 4,000 years?
Probably not.
No. Nobody's going to remember me, you, or this podcast.
Right.
in 4,000 years.
Right.
So I always ask myself the question, not does my Black life matter, as much as I must ask, will my impact matter? What do I do today that will better tomorrow? Tomorrow to better next week, then next year, next decade, next century, so on and so on. What's my impact going to be? How can I impact courage in a way that would help this be legendary? Because as I look at the people that I've had a chance to meet, Julian Bond, and I can show you pictures of all these guys. Julian Bond, who marched with Dr. King, a student. He was my mentor in law school. Rosa Parks, I had a chance to live with her for a whole week when she came when I was a little kid. Johnny Cochran, who I mentioned earlier. Oh man, I can go down a list of just 50 people that I've met over my lifetime. They were courageous. They used their power for good in their own individual way. They simply did their part. And as a result, my friend, I get to do my part today in using my power for good. They're passing on this legendary courage to me. I hope to pass it on to you. I hope for you to pass it on to others. And as long as we keep passing on this legendary courage, this thing, right? Like, the sword of Excalibur, right? Or whatever it is, whatever that thing is that we are, or like, that's a symbol of just hope. A symbol of becoming and doing things that will transcend our country into what we want it to be. And if I can pass on this symbolic courage, this legendary courage, because it was passed on to me, then I believe we can do some real things. Lives were saved, I believe, that night we were out there. And I wasn't the only one. Folks didn't get arrested. We prevented a lot of arrests. Some folks did get arrested, but we prevented a lot who did get arrested. And now we're representing those who did get arrested. We're changing the system. We're changing the narrative. Things are no longer us being desensitized by a black male being shot, and then us blaming the rioters and demonstrators and looters. That narrative is changing. There were doctors and lawyers and everyone else, and once the country had a chance to see that, the police had to put up their riot gear shields and their other very violent weapons that they used against us, because they realized these people that are demonstrating aren't the bad guys. So why are you using this kind of force against them? The Department of Justice, the White House, sent lawyers out to watch the cop because they realized we were doing it the right way. Legendary courage. Dr. King did that.
That's powerful stuff.
Man, it is. It's not my stuff to have, though, right? It's simply mine that was passed to me that I hope to continue to pass on.
What y'all think of the podcast?
The greatest podcast since Mike Pod invented podcasting.
Play it again.
Don't say it in vain. You know he's one of the best.
You got a nice voice and you light skin.
Oh my God! Play it again.